effective communication. Otherwise, if you communicate and if you are not having a feedback or if you don't have a response, then that is a failed communication. So, as part of this unit, we will be talking about the effective messages in the process of communication. And it becomes very important for the mass communication students to understand the nature of media messages and the role played by different media vehicles in carrying these messages. So to begin with, let us talk about message generation process in the communication. So if you are recalling what is the process of a communication, we know that there is a message, there is a sender, the message, the channel, and a receiver. So what exactly you mean by a message? Yeah. So message is something which is a compilation of information. It can be in the visual, verbal, or numerical, or it can be in a written format, or it can be as an image, or it can be a recorded one or digitally analyzed. However, the messages can vary from the target audience. For example, if you are taking a target audience for the advertising company or for the advertising product, their target audience is different. And if you're talking about the print media, newspapers, their target audience is different. So depending upon that one, it also, the messages may be formal speech, it could be email, it could be a story or an article or a news or a feature, or it could be a video program and all those things. The context of communication process opens a new window for the message in the form of an idea, whether a simple greeting or a complex idea. It can be shaped by the assumption based on sender's experience. So, when we are talking about the message, the role of a sender plays a very significant role because it is the sender's assumption that is been shared as an idea or a greeting or a complex idea, whatever. So, what is an idea? An idea can be expressed as a set of signs which must be understood and interpreted, and we use these signs and codes to formulate messages in order to transfer meaning from one another. A sign, it stands for something else. The verbal signs are spoken and written words and sounds. A message sent with the spoken or written words is a non-verbal, like thumbs up and emojis and all those things are of the signs. Non-verbal signs are gestures, postures, facial expressions, colors, lighting, cues that express a meaning. Yeah, that express the meaning. Then likewise, as you listen to the others, the non-verbal signs affect the meaning you assign to the verbal signs. A friend may say, I am fine, thank you, but the facial expression shows that he is visibly upset. So, as a sender, when you're trying to accomplish your communication as an effective communication, what is that you require is to have a clarity of the idea, to form and decide the purpose of the message, to analyze how it can be presented, and to anticipate the effect on the receiver. So these are the important features or the points a sender should always remember. If you refer back to Harold Laswell's theory of communication, where he says that, who says in what channel to whom with what effect. In this chain, we see that, the refer to the message is communicated. Although the other elements are certainly important in other own ways, what is conveyed is of great significance to the recipient. So here, the Harold Laswell theory emphasizes on the message that is being said to whom with what effect. Some characteristics is at the heart of the soul of the communication. Likewise, we see that, the message can be communicated through words, pictures, gestures, signs, and symbols. But if it is not understood properly by the audience concerned, it is an exercise in vain or a failed one. So the difficulty in understanding the message can arise for a variety of reasons. It could be in terms of the language, it could be in the terms of the concepts, or it could be in terms of the recipient who is not able to understand or grasp the content of the message. So the problem can arise if the speaker does not draw clear conclusion in the messages. In such instances, we see the listener may draw different conclusions depending on their background and their understanding of the issue. So it is very important that we have to be very much clear if you are a sender of a message. To quote one example, there is an interesting story that keeps talking when in reference to the clear message, that a biology professor was performing an experiment He dropped a worm into a beaker of water, and the worm continued to wriggle in it. The professor then dropped the same worm into a beaker of alcohol, where it immediately died. So definitely the professor will like to know what is that they have understood. One of the students draws a conclusion, say that, if you don't want warm, drink alcohol. The context is different, the experiment is different, and the conclusion what interpreted by the student is different. So it is very much understood that, the messages needs to be very much clear in your explanation. However, we see the process of communication. Once the sender develops an idea, the message should be in a coherent manner. That means which is understandable, where it can be, get back, where you can get back to the sender in case if you have any doubt. It should see that how you send the message should be more effectively, and the channel selected should also be more related to the receivers and the sender's point of view. The sender should select an appropriate medium for the message, which depends upon the relationship with the receiver and the purpose of the message that has to be sent. As soon as the message is received by the recipient, he would process the message based on the communication channel. And before decoding the messages, he will understand, then only he would be in a proper stage to decode. That means to understand the message. So what happens at this stage is that the receiver processes the information, understands its context, and analyzes its implication. This is the most crucial stage in the communication process. So we should see that, that the receiver should successfully be able to decode the messages, which leads to an effective communication. Otherwise, it is a failed communication. Then we will move on to when we are talking about so much of communication process and in terms of media messages, then we see that, the media messages have different platforms and different vehicles. So let us throw a light on what are the types of media messages and what are the vehicles used to process the communication. Mass media, when we talk about a mass media, it is a tailor-made information and it is a tailor-made technology. So one vehicle or the one platform is the print media messages. Similarly, electronic media. Similarly, you have social media. So what is print media message? You know what is print media? It is a written form of the media where you see and understand the matter and the way the eye takes the brain of the newspaper information. So print media can be included comparatively more diverse, and it has an in-depth coverage of the topics and the news stories. Because of the traditional printed, the kind of a trust, the kind of an accountability the print word carries, we see that, we depend more on the print media messages and we trust the print media messages. Now, these days, it's been unfolding a different story. But however, we see that, print media is definitely a source of information and also a reliable source of information, because without the quoting of the source of information, there is no news that appears into the print media, unlike the social media. And also we see that, there is a greater freedom which the print media enjoys when compared to the other media. And this in print media in terms of newspaper and magazines have credibility and have a greater social responsibility. We can also emphasize that the print media messages in the form of the news, articles, editorials, analysis reach its audiences very effectively and create great impact on their minds, isn't it? So, however, we see that, the print media had acquired more of, now with the growing technology, it has also, reformed and reshaped itself in terms of the competition and the technology, and has become more color and gloss, and contents are getting graphic treatment as a result of new printing technologies. The use of new technology is making print media more effectively, and more readers and advertisers are drawn to the print media. To quote the examples of Times of India, the Hindu, the Malayala Manorama, the Anand Bazar Patrika, if you see all those things, they are totally glossy with so much of color, good content, and many graphic. So this has become a favorite and has become a more powerful medium. So the first vehicle we talked about is the print media. Then the second one is the electronic media messages. So the electronic media include both the radio, satellite, TV, cable TV, video, magazines, and films, which are part of and the repetition of the spoken word, which also have a sound input and action-oriented visuals. So if you refer to the radio copy, it is to be read aloud. Writing must follow the common speech pattern. It needs to be written in the conversational style because it is a medium of sound and spoken words. So the conversation language should be simple and informal because it is catering to a different audiences, variety of audiences and specifically to a specific audiences. So the simple sentence is the most effective tool for the writer of a radio copy. Simple and commonly understood words are to be used. Besides, an easy flow of language has to be ensured. In a broadcasting text, you are telling a story. Therefore, the words and phrases cannot be spoken naturally and share the story in a simple way so that we relate to a story. If the language does not sound natural, if the meaning of the words is not instantly, it's not instantly clear to the listener, then it is not a good radio program. Another characteristics of a radio broadcasting is that the spoken words must match with the audio element. Where, as I told you, radio is an oral medium with a sound, so fine statistics should be avoided in news and other informational programs. When we refer to the television writing, it is a picture presentation of a story where we have a visual and and the visual replaces the verbal ones. Programs are shown but not told, unlike the radio. So the TV copy is a split copy describing both the video and audio components. Words lose 2/3 of their value on the TV as the eye holds up the picture because it is a visual medium. We are seeing the picture. What is being seen on the TV screen need not be described through words. So TV has its own techniques of visual narration. So that is the reason why we see the viewers cling to the TV and try to understand the screen information on the screen. So in a video magazine interviews, interviewers articulate through shots to produce, very good and poignant and striking news stories. In films, the still pictures captured by the camera are at a speed of 24 shots per second. I hope you know how the visual medium works. You might have read in the broadcast journalism that it travels with the light, and the light has that the camera captures in 24 frames at the same speed by the projector in all the hall and creates an illusion of motion picture on the widescreen depicting a vivid human story, and it could be in terms of dance, songs and scenes or any dramatic actions. So we see that the message writing or scripting varies from medium to medium unless it is done to suit the typical attributes of that medium. So it should be in tune with also at the same time we should ensure that it should be in tune with the social economic conditions. It should be in tune with the attitudes and media habits of the target audience, and the message should not be and should not have the desire or impact. The programs may not click with the audience. So what exactly in such situation, how the media messages should be? So the media message should have a clarity, coherence and consciousness. That talks about the message should be a simple, clear, lucid and concise and generally and understandable. On the other hand, any message which is heavily loaded or loose will be very difficult and might be more weak or more confused. So the other feature is coherence. That is, it should be of a good message and understandable with a logical understanding. The message should have a logical point. Then language is very important. Any message with a good language and an easy language is a preferable one and also results to an effective communication. The communicator should approach the concept of style warily and avoid the temptation to have a language with the purple phrases or sophisticated language. The path to effective communication is to be simple, to be plain, to have an order of your information and be sincere in your writing. Messages with these attributes get easily understood and should aim for an effective communication. There is at the same time need for the communicators to take all the precautions to ensure that messages are not understood. When you create a 1 minute or 2 minute video and if the message is not understood, then the efforts what you have put will go in vain. So there are important, here it is important because we need to have a feedback. Pre-testing minimizes communication failures. So this method can help to pre-test the following characteristics of a message. So how to know that your message is simple? So the message should have these following characteristics, such as effectiveness of appeal. It should have a readability. It should have a clarity. It should have an effectiveness of presentation, acceptability, appropriateness of length and layout of the message. So in case if your message has these certain features or certain elements, then we can say that, it is going with a simple language. The other element for a media message should be the credibility of the source. This remains very important and so holds a significant place in any kind of information that has been shared. Now, to make you understand, let us take the examples of our social media and also the examples of the print media, traditional media. Here, when we take the traditional media or the conventional media, we have a source or the editor or the policy or the organization is responsible. But in the social media, the generation of the content, the information remains to be a big questionable. So, while you are a sender, you have to see that, you need to hold the credibility of the source. So this will help you to make your message effective and reliable. To make it more effective, your reliable, credible sources should be considered. So who in this process makes much critical role? For example, like if you have the process of a communication, who is very important, who plays a critical role? Who in the communication is another important factor in the communication. That means sender, who is speaking. Yeah, who is speaking. Now, for example, as a student, if you get an information about your examination day or postponement or the revising of the examination, who is informing is very important there. If anybody of your batchmate, how can we trust them? So this explains the credibility of a speaker on a given topic. So you agree that, in the process of the communication, we hear for example, if you want to hear anything related to the media role or the promotion of the media in the democracy, definitely we like to hear it from an expert or an experienced person. Why is that so? Because we see that, it is something, it is the speaker is very important. Then only we will get an credibility to the topic and we will also follow the information. So who is very important, and so the credibility of source plays an important role. And the other feature what we see is the messages to be effective should have a persuasion. Yeah. So here when we say persuasion, yeah, should have a persuasion. This means the contents in the appeal should have the power to influence persuasion in a positive manner where it will try to influence the receiver's attitude. Yeah. So now, for example, if you are writing a message for any NGO or development as part of the development communication, you should see that, those targeted people who should be part of, are part of the inclusive growth and economic schemes should be persuaded to be part of all these schemes and avail the best and develop their particular area and the community. So in that manner, we see that it is very important that the messages should be more persuasive and in the context that it should have the influencer to the receiver's attitude. The communicators today are acquainted with a package of techniques which can put a thrust on the messages. So there are some techniques we should avoid. So it should be more of positive but of not less of negativity. Ultimately, the message should be where it should be, the fundamental objective should be to inform people, yeah, and it should provide information to the mass people. It can be related to the education, it can be related to the weather, it can be related to the sports or products and services. So it is the media that is trying to talk about. So in the recent, this after the celebration of 10th year of decimal celebrations of Telangana, the government has started out all the new programs for 21 days. So the media plays an important role in informing about what are the events that are being celebrated on each day by the government. They have given a specification and they have given a special role to a particular development. So media should make them to understand and inform the people. Then the important role the message should play is about to build a public opinion. Yeah. So another function is to create public opinion on any national or international issue. Yeah. So the mass media should try to attempt to create public opinion with a realistic picture of the world, activities of the leader, and government politics. The mass media should try to build a public opinion through articles, editorials, and commentaries, but not creating a fake news or trying to give any another news. Fine. Then it is the message should circulate the government policies. Let us not forget that when we have a media, unfortunately, we are only using the media for criticizing or trying to demean or trying to question. Definitely, we have to do all those things. But at the same time, the role of a media, the message of media messages should also be that it should circulate government policies. It is very important because we are a democratic country. If democratic or any form of a government, the activities of the government should pass on to the public. So the media messages should announce and circulate government programs and policies, and mass media should bring a message and about the public policies to the notice at the required what do you say at the required time. So, for example, if you have any policy that has a date and you talk about the policy after the completion of the date, then it will not help the media, these people. So, you have to ensure that your messages should be on time rather. So, for example, if you are disseminating health and education programs, government initiates various health and education programs like vaccination, sanitation, birth control, open education, mass education. These health education programs should be disseminated and implemented through mass media like radio, television, films, and newspapers. So, putting and circulating on time is very important. At the same time, the media message should also have should provide a pleasure and entertainment. Yeah, no. See, one of the function of the media is to also have to provide an entertainment, to inform, to instruct, and also to provide an entertainment. So that way, it is also a source of amusement. So newspaper and magazines publishes on literary and cultural events, and whereas television would have their own set of programs. It also should establish social contact and linkage. It is very important. If you refer back to the mass communication functions, we have seen that, one of the function of a mass communication is to build a linkage between the society and the public. So media messages should try to establish and maintain social contact and linkage among various race, tribes, and communities. More so when we are in a country like India, where we are into the multi-religion, races, where we have different cultures. So it should establish a social contact and build a linkage. It creates an atmosphere of a shared messages to spread knowledge and experiences. So with that, we see that, it helps in shared messages and also help to spread the knowledge. For example, a campaign to raise funds for the treatment of certain disease, or it could be performing certain social activity that promotes a social bondage and sympathy. So it should be, the media message should have this social contact and linkage. It should also see that, it is trying to promote a political ideology. This is with reference to the democratic countries where, political parties play an important role. So because political parties, that is the legislative parties, this section of the legislation as part of the democracy is important. So the political parties rely on mass media to promote their ideologies, plans, programs, and manifestos. With the help of the mass media, they use it is also the two-way kind of a communication. They use the media to have their public opinion in their favor, and we see that the public is also aware of the political ideologies. So we see that from this we conclude that mass communication has diversified objectivities and has a different messages with a different aim. So, however, mass communication is mainly dedicated to ensure the well-being of all the classes in the society. We have been continually talking about this one, and we should always remember that ultimately the objective of a media is to have a coexistence and well-being of all the people in the society. Now, let us talk about the media exposures and media filters. So, what exactly you understand by the media exposures? It is related to how audience are privy to media messages. This is to understand the extent of which audience have encountered specific messages in media content. It is the foundation of media effects research. So, media filters refer to the factors that determine the type of news and content that is presented. So, one is about the specific messages in the media content, and another one is the kind of the type of the news that is been part of the media messages. So, there is a measurement how people are exposed to the media content, and that is very crucial for us to understand the media use and effects. So, we have that users and media gratification theory. For that one, you should understand what is the kind of the media environment the people are being affected to. So, the exposure to the media has to be understood. In today's media landscape, we have to ensure that individuals are exposed to diverse messages anytime, anywhere, in form of a variety of sources because of the increasing platforms and also with the technology. So, whether we like or dislike, we are being exposed and we are having a huge media exposure. With the and also with the digital media exposure, it is also giving a lots of means for understanding the media uses and its effect. So here we also see that, in everyday language, exposure is a term that is often used synonymously with the term attention. But with the media literacy, we must draw an important distinction between the two terms. So when we are saying media literacy, yes, of course, exposure is something where we get to grab our attention, where we are being grabbed by the attention. But in the terms of the media literacy, we must there is a difference. There is a sequence of three types of exposures. One is physical exposure, it is perceptual exposure, and psychological exposure. So these are different types of the exposures. Let us understand one by one. So physical exposure is the foundational creation in the physical presence. A person must experience a proximity to a message for exposure to take place. It means that message and the person occupy the same physical space for some specific period of the time. Thus, space and times are regarded as barriers to the exposures. It is like, for example, if you turn a TV, you are directly watching. So, it is a physical exposure that you are being directly getting in contact. Then perception. Then a perceptual exposure is whether you are talking related to the perceptions of those topics that exist, and the psychological exposures. So you might be interested in your own area of watching your entertainment and all those things. So it all varies. Then the perception filters. We see that, any message is called for us stimulus. That means some kind of emotion or reaction. A strong emotion laden message impacts the receiver. But before any stimulus or message can transfer knowledge or create an image or change an attitude or make a behavioral change, it must be understood by the receiver in a clear manner. Perception is a process whereby an individual receives through the stimulus through which the various sense in order of you interpret it. So now, if I ask a child to watch a news and say, so that is totally a different perception that the child will come to. So the context is very important. Therefore, information needs are met by nurturing the perception of the audiences, their attitudes, values, interest, and learning process, and also the social context that you watch. Yeah, some might be interested in economic development, some might be interested in cultural development or political development. The interest might vary. Therefore, the ability of the source to codify message with knowledge turns perception filters as an important condition for a successful communication process. So, research attributes the effectiveness of a message to its media relevance. So, there could be many programs. So, in all that programs, the perception in place is very important. So, this perception filter is something which helps you to understand that what kind of an exposure you are been open to. Then there is a media messages that are related to the media stereotypes. Yeah, we understand that that mass media plays an important role in the society, and it plays a role of a filter through which people learn about each other. However, we see that there are media that there are instances of a media where the media continues to reproduce ethnic and racial stereotypes, and unfortunately sometimes they are harmful also. So in various types of news, dramas, gaming, ethnic minority groups are typically marginalized or overlooked. So they are generally represented in a narrowly stereotyped rules. So this kind of a depiction is a problematic, and a negative depiction should be avoided, and it is a stereotype. So when we say, let us say, when politician in a village or something, so there is a portrayal of a politician where he comes with lots of people behind him, and all those things, or a woman being denigrated, or woman is less powerful than a man. So all these are the different stereotypes we try to see in the media. The result in a pervasiveness of the stereotype representation of the media format shows the outcome of the complex media protection process. It talks basically about the norms and values, commercial drivers, the commercial people who are behind it, and it is really talking about the lack of ethnic minority and media producers, because there is a less representation of a particular, like for example, if you are talking about tribal peoples, if you have a tribal representation in a media in appropriate number, then definitely they will understand the issues and they will talk. But because lack of these people, we see that sometimes they don't we don't see any stories, or we see that they are being misinterpreted or misrepresented. So mass media plays, we have to understand mass media and its role, because mass media plays a role in shaping collective identities and intergroup attitudes by basically typecasting certain groups. And it might also, media thoroughly, unfortunately, distorts the picture for different groups. It is also suggested by various researchers and professionals in the industry that this media representation cannot only promote public hostility, but other also sees the poor representation and lower representation of ethnic minorities, and it is causing an effect on the self-esteem. As a result, you have to see that researchers into the ways to combat our media messages should not be a stereotype, and we should have a more positive representation. So there is another gender there is another stereotype through media messages, and that is about the gender. So a gender stereotype is basically a conception about the attributes or the characteristics or the roles uh, basically performed by a men and women. As I told you, a woman being denigrated, a woman being, exploited, and all those things are the stereotypes, gender stereotypes. So, or sometimes in these days, it's been so easy, and often we see that, on the social media, that there are so many, jokes or statements where they talk about the denigration of a woman in terms of women being irrational, or women are being, benign or being nurtured, or something, where women are being not considered to work, or, women being talking about senseless, that having a broader perspective of the issues. So all these are a part of the gender stereotyping. So it basically refers to the practice of an individual woman or a man, specific attributes, characteristics, or roles by membership in the social group. Gender stereotyping is wrongful when it results in the violation of human rights and freedom. Basically, this stereotyping is that leads to the human rights and violation of the human rights and the freedom. The examples of gender stereotyping is like, criminalizing, not criminalizing marital rape, perceiving that women are the sexual property of men, or failing to investigate or prosecute or sentence on any sexual violence against the women, believing that victims of sexual violence agree to acts as they are not dressing or behaving modestly. So that is also one kind of a gender uh, stereotyping. Wrongful gender stereotyping is a frequent cause of discrimination against women, and it is contributing factor in violation of a vast array of rights such as right to health, adequate standard. So what we see this, because of this wrong stereotyping, there is definitely an impact. A family might not be interested saying that, no, I will not send my girl child to an education because there's all these problems are happening. So because of the media messages that have been captivated the minds of the parents, there could be an impact on the health or the education factor of or on the standard of the living of a woman. So all such things should be avoided. So thus we come to the end of this one. Then media message perceptions, deceptions. Then we have a third block that talks about media studies and literacy. So media studies and literacy basically talks about, in this unit, you will be learning about the issues and trends in media literacy. You will have an analysis and the distinct language and codes used by media. And it's a critical analysis and it talks about the significance of audience response. Discuss the media and its agenda. So, we have understood what is media literacy. Media literacy is something where it is the ability to access, analyze, evaluate, and create media. Why we are talking about media communication so much? Because media plays an important role in our lives and also being the fourth pillar of the democracy. That, we see that, this is where we see that, the information keeps on flowing to our irrespective of whether you want to get exposed to that particular message or not, and with this digital platform. So therein we see that, the media literacy is very important. So it is not a main, we should also understand that media literacy is not a phenomenon. So starting with the invention of the printing press in 1400, media to till date has formed a form of communication beyond the interpersonal. So in the industrial area, we have seen that, the newspapers and magazines were a force to reckon with. However, the advance in the technologies has exposed more and more to the media. The use of technology and digital literacy has to go in hand, because the technology allows for greater expansion of the mass media outlets, which includes the internet, and also now we see the social media accounts. So we see that, with the huge exposure to the media and with the digital platforms, there we have to have this digital literacy and the media literacy. So in this manner, we see that the media, here this unit is trying to describe the issues and trends in the media literacy, make you understand the media language and codes. The unit also helps you to understand the audience responses and the variations they have from one medium to another. And the media messages just not only communicate to its audience, but also make a distinct impact on the mind. So how do media influence the mind by setting agendas? So let us discuss. To understand that one, first let us talk about the issues and trends in the media literacy. So media literacy is not restricted to one medium, and it is understood as a set of competencies that are essential for work, life, and citizenship. Yeah. So at the workplace, you might communicate with the digital communication with the help of the digital platform regarding your circulars, notices, information, upgradation, and all those things. In the life, we are with the social media, and at the citizenship, we are with the governance. So we need to have around the clock to the communication network. So media education is used to advance these competencies and is intended to promote awareness on media influences and create an active stand towards consumption and creation of the media. So in such scenario, we feel that, the creation of a media message is important. At the same time, the consumption of the media message is also very important. So media education literacy is part of, now it has come to such an extent that this media literacy education has become a part of a curriculum in the United States and some European Union as part of the interdisciplinary approach, because the world has become a global community and the media scholars and educators engage in knowledge sharing through scholarly and professional journals. So scientifically also there is so much of research that is happening. So as the media is increasing by day, there is an emphasis on ensuring that the media literacy should engage, and even the society should be engaged in a thorough manner. So in the digital age, media literacy is the need of the hour, that helps us and makes us understand to grab the opportunity, and will help us to know thoroughly what exactly is the purpose of the message. In the face of multiple problems of hate speech or cyberbullying or hacked YouTube content or fake news, we are witnessing the urgent calls to have a media environment better, isn't it? So that you can regulate. So there are certain aims because of the aims related to the media literacy. That is, it is about the ability to fully use media technology, where the media user should have and fully express oneself using this technology. See that, the critical judgment when consuming the media. The other aim is to reflect both as a producer and consumer of the media, and ultimately the moral and ethical behavior within the media environment has to be protected. So we see that, media literacy is something where it influences our attitudes and behavior, and ethical discussions are very important. Decisions are very important, and media literacy is sometimes conceptualized to address the various dimensions of media, which include media manipulation, misinformation, gender and racial stereotypes, and the concerns about loss of privacy, cyberbullying, internet predators. By building knowledge and competencies in using media and technologies, this literacy education provides a type of protection to children and young people by helping them make good choices in their media consumption habits and patterns of usages. So when we feel that there is so much of necessity and there is so much of important role of a media, there are certain issues of a issues related to the media literacy. So let us know what they are. So despite many positives, we see that there are many risks and issues within the world of media. There is a need for cautious pick and share about the media messages. Media literacy allows us to question to the intent of the media and protect ourselves from any negative impacts of the media. So what are the negative impacts of the media? One is commonly, which is known to, is about the fake news. So in this internet age, there is so much of flood of information. So fake news and disinformation have been so widespread that we are not able to differentiate what is real and what is fake. So the media, what we consume, should shape our opinions on different important topics, including political, healthcare, and current events. So the last thing we want is to base such important opinions and lies and information. We definitely would not like to make a good opinion about the politics which are being based on the lies or the misinformation. So platforms such as Insta and Facebook allow rapid sharing of information, which gives news a chance to spread quickly, often making the fake news seem believable, the kind with the speed. So while we are receiving and consuming the new media news also, or the messages, the kind of a speed it goes also matters, because the more you see, the more you believe. Whether it is fake or not, we couldn't get a time. So here it is where we see that in the media literacy plays an important role. But not all fake news is distributed with the ill intent. There is a landscape of both intentional and unintentional sharing on social platform. So while they share also, there could be some reason in sharing. So there could be an intentional and unintentional sharing on the social platform. So that is about the fake news. Then we have media bias. So this media bias is something where, it's the hen or the egg kind of a thing. But however, we have to see that, Media bias is something we explored the blog post in understanding the media bias. It is observed that it is an ongoing issue with the media industry. Media bias is the result of biased opinions of the news distributors while selecting stories and events that get covered in the media space and time. Now, the best example you can talk about is the Republic TV, where you see that there's so much of important incident that has been happening, and Republic TV talks about some other things. So that is a biased approach towards the events that are happening in the society. This is an extremely important issue, and which has to be tackled very carefully and immediately. And without the knowledge of the media literacy, it could misinterpret the events that are unfolding with the inherent media bias. The journalist and news producer often paint a situation in a light that favors one side of the story. So one side of the story is against the principles of the journalism. So that is how we call it as a biased. So we form our opinions and views on a situation based on what we conceive in a media. Yeah, the youth will see the trends, so they try to consume and incorporate in their lifestyle. Now the news about different religions, so you try to see and consume. So this is how we form the opinion after seeing the media. But we see that the bias can lead to consumers by not getting full understanding of the scenarios and topics and impacts and opinions. Therefore, the media literacy is important to have a critical information analysis on the information we get. Then there is also another negative impact that talks about the mental health concerns. It is very unfortunate that the media available today is posing a threat to the mental health of the young individuals. So there are so many studies that have shown a link between heavy social media usage and anxiety and depression. So you have seen, young people who are being prone to the depression or doing, taking up wrong steps because of so much of influence of the media. So here we see that they try to compare that they talk about the influencers and all those things, and in that way they are trying to compare themselves and having a mental health concerns, mental health disturbances. However, we see that these posts are not always truthful. The photographs do not portray a real aspect of people's life. Often they are sponsored or highly curated content with the intention. So this curated content remains a very big issue and a threat in social media, because of what they want to sell or promote. These days, the Meta, Facebook has turned into Meta with the promotion of the ads and all those things. So in that situations, we see that there is a curated content. So in particular, younger audience may not understand the full extent of this post, and but what they try to do is that they try to compare themselves, and they make it a yeah, they try to make it as an ideal of their life. So here we need the critical thinking skills are essential to view such a content objectively. Then you have internet and media access. So another thing to consider is the access to media and the internet, where having a strong Wi-Fi connection and technology to the internet now these days is not at all a luxury. It is everybody's common effort that we are putting. So those who are not fortunate enough to have an easy access to online platforms may be accustomed to news formats and information online. So when exposed to the media, they may struggle to differentiate fake information and real information. So it is important to educate everybody in the media about the media literacy. Then we have trends in, these are the issues that we have seen. Now let us understand what are the trends. Trends in media literacy. The internet gave, this boom in the internet gave a revolutionary change in the society and gave birth to the social media that took the world of communication into a storm. Yeah. So the people started connecting and started living with it. I think we even ourselves, if we don't touch a mobile for a second, you could see in the digital well-being that how many times we turn. So that is the influence of the digital media that we come across in our daily life. This extremely dynamic virtual world revolves around social media and keeps changing and updating with the every now and then. It is crucial to keep up with the updated trends of the social media. So what are the trends? It is first trend is about the inclusivity. So what do you mean by inclusivity? So we see that the social media definitely have become a blessing in disguise for the people who are disconnected or who used to remain in isolation. But with their own pros and cons, these platforms have a place that talks about bringing revolutions. The big time revolutions that internet and social media had made possible was put forward, and that is how we see that there is an inclusivity. So whether you were liking or disliking, you were isolation, now you can be a silent participant and all those things. So directly or indirectly, you've been included. So that is called as an inclusivity. So a great place to come out to speak out openly about the fears and insecurities, to run campaigns that encourage inclusivity, a place where positivity overtakes negativity. Social media works like an engine that keeps pushing the train of revolution forward. So recent social media trend focuses on inclusivity and makes social media a safe and non-discriminating platform, irrespective of the caste, creed, gender, race, etc. So it is the trend is that it is trying to include everyone as part of the social media. Then you have a virtual and augmented reality. So what is augmented reality and virtual reality? Basically, it is something about talking about the artificial intelligence. Now you can talk, if you have seen a movie of this Adi Purush or Bahubali and all those things, what it is a virtual reality that was being created. It is something curated content, specially being created for the audience for the entertainment. So it is one of the best emerging trends of the social media platforms. But at the end, we have to say that it is for the well-being of the human beings. So with a variety of features to use, these platforms successfully offer virtual and augmented ways to connect and amplify their messages. Then we have to see that there is a transparency and authenticity. So the audience, the message is basically audience driven content, where we see that that if you have a misrepresentation or this information, also there is a possibility to find out the authenticity of the information. Then commerce via social media platforms, best being the what do you call all this Insta for posting the advertisements and all those things. So this the trend is that these social media platforms have become a alternative and route for the e-commerce also. So they are pushing their businesses, they are pushing their products, they are doing so much of businesses. So these are the trends and the issues of the media. What we see in the social media messages. So here we also see that media distant languages and code. So what exactly is the media distant language and codes? So basically, for any message, language is very important, that has the words used in a structured and conventional manners. So you also have signs and images that are text are significance, having a numerous information that gives as part of the science. So media linguistics, modern media linguistics examines the written communication of media and also to have a media speeches. So media codes are technical, written and symbolic tools used to construct and suggest meaning in media forms and products. So media codes incorporate the utilization of camera, acting, setting, missing scene, altering, lighting, and a sound enhancement, typography, shading. So all these various dimensions of media literacy, and these are the different ways that we will be presenting our information. So there are certain codes. An important first step in becoming media and information literate is first to understand how information, ideas, and meanings are being communicated by different various medias and information providers. So information providers such as libraries, archives, museums, and internet. So we see that each medium has its own language or grammar that works to convey meaning in a unique way. So therefore, language in this sense means the technical and symbolical ingredients or the codes and conventions that media and information professionals may select and use as an effort to communicate their own ideas. So, or to transfer the information or to transfer the knowledge. So media language can also include the repeated use of particular words and phrases and images, also known as verbal or visual languages. So we have a repeated use of particular words, phrases. Yeah. So that way we see that, media has its own language. Yeah. And it could be a verbal language and as well as it could be a visual language. So when we study media languages, three main questions should be considered. That how are media languages understood by the media audiences? When we are trying to talk about the media literacy, the first question arises is that how is the media language understood by the media audiences? Then, what are the some of the major codes and conventions used by the people working in media? Yeah, what are the codes being used? So, what different persons can derive dissimilar meanings from the same text? Yeah. So, as I told you, the sender should be clear so that the receiver should understand the message. If not, the message would be diversified or deviated. So that way, we see that there are certain things that are media literacy as part of the media literacy, we need to follow that one. Now, we have come to the end of the session, so I will stop here. In the next class, we'll continue with the codes. Is it right? Is that okay?
Madam, what is a code?
Sorry?
Kindly briefly expression about the codes, madam.
I'm not able to hear you. Could you please be louder?
What is a code? Code.
Yeah, in the next class, we'll be talking about that one. With the code here, it is not related to it. When in media, we are talking about the languages. In the next session, in detail, we'll be discussing.
Okay, madam.
Yeah.
Okay, madam.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, any doubts, any clarifications?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
thank you.
So we'll meet in the next class. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Parveen Sultan, madam. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. See you in the next session. I think you have joined too late, huh?
No, just 5 minutes late, madam.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Meet you in the next session. Thank you.
Okay.